bleed green? Are you an ultimate Eagles football fan? Well, you're in the right place. Ready? This is Birds 365, hosted by the new Mac and Mac, Jody McDonald and John McMullen.
Here we go!
Who collectively have covered and talked about more than 50 plus years of Eagles football. Kick off your day with Birds 365. You'll get debate.
We love to argue.
You'll get the real story from inside the locker room. And you'll hear from some of the great football minds from around the region. You're about to become an Eagles insider. Get in the game. Join Jody Mack and Johnny Mack and join the football community that flocks to Birds 365. Birds 365 starts right now.
Welcome to the NFL. Let's go! Let's go! Go! And a good Monday morning, Birds fans. How are you this fine day? I'm guessing pretty good after last night's performance. Appreciate you streaming in with us here on Birds 365. You got me, Jody Mack, and my partner, John McMullen, who, while not playing hurt, is playing spent. Trying to get through a tough one today after a fun game last night. Man, Johnny Mack, that was just a virtuoso performance on the ground by the Philadelphia Eagles. And I know you don't like Sunday nights. I don't like Sunday nights either because I want to get the Eagles football ASAP, especially on a week where we got through Thursday action and have to wait all the way till Sunday night. It was worth the wait, was it not?
No, Sunday night is never worth the wait. So that is my quick answer to that. It is an abject disaster every time, but that's personal. That has nothing. From the Eagles' perspective, yeah, I mean they were tremendous. 363 yards on the ground. I don't know if there's a WIP in Green Bay, but if there is, Joe Barry's getting fired today. I don't know what the Packers were trying to accomplish, but even with that knowledge, that is an awful coaching staff. But I will say that was impressive no matter what. Even if that's the best versus the worst, and it very well might be from a running perspective. Might be the best running team against the worst run defense team, even though they were 25th. They have no plan whatsoever. Anytime you run for 300, that's like college numbers. That's what that is. I mean, that is absurd. And even when you're like the Eagles, I explain all the time, Jody, when the Eagles don't defend the run well, part of that is baked into their philosophy and that they'd rather give a little bit in the run game to limit as many explosive plays as possible, yada, yada, yada. Even when you factor that in, those are like college numbers. I mean, and it was the third play. And coming off the Indianapolis game, I'm sitting myself, did this guy even watch the Eagles tape? I mean, 24 yards, Jalen Hurts, quarterback draw. Then it was, I think, 5 plays later, 28 yards. It's 7-0. He had a 42-yard run. He was right there. He was one more run away from becoming the all-time leader at quarterback. Justin Fields set the record earlier this season. He was 20. I think he ended up 21 yards behind. Yeah. And career highs, think about that, Jody. Career high from the quarterback, Jalen Hurts, and Miles Sanders in the same game. And, oh, by the way, Boston Scott, when he did touch it, 8 yards a carry. Kenny Gainwell, when he did touch it, 4.9 yards per carry. Unbelievable.
Pretty pitiful defense by the Packers. And, yeah, we noted that last week here on Birds 365 for those who are worried about their less than stellar offensive performance against the Colts last week and second guessing, and this is what I just couldn't wrap my head around. The Eagles' offensive game. Oh, it's because Nick Sirianni was trying too hard to beat the Colts. He was too emotionally wound up. Even if that's the case, you're then putting that on Shane Steichen as well. That somehow Shane Steichen, just by hanging around Nick, was pushing the envelope too hard to get this significant win over the Colts. I thought it was so overstated and over beat down on. These same guys called that game last night. How'd they turn it around in 7 days and become geniuses again? Of course, that was not the case in Indy, and they were just pushing the right buttons last night. I think the package ineptitude on rushing defense against the rush was part of it, but give them credit for not only calling it, but executing. The offensive line was phenomenal last night. And a little nod, Mac. And again, we don't get to see the coaching tape. You're just watching it on TV. You're seeing it live, so you got a better look than I do down at the stadium. The tight ends chipped in on the block. And we talked all last week about replacing Dallas Goedert and trying too hard to replace Dallas Goedert. How the hell are they going to replace Dallas Goedert? We worry about it more from the pass receiving end. They also missed some, they did in Indy, from his ability to run block, because he's one of the best run blocking tight ends in the game. The guys chipped in last night on the rushing attack and did a good job. The guys filling in for Goddard. So I think we got to give them a little atta-guy for their job contributing to 300 combined yards by 2 players. I'm sorry, you just never see that in the National Football League.
Yeah, like I said, college numbers. And you're right. I mean, well, we all know Jack Stoll can block, so that part to me is not that big of a surprise. That's the strength of his game. But they don't. I'm still worried about that. They didn't get any of the tight ends worried offensively, but that's for the nitpicking later in the show, receiving wise. But it looked like they came out wanting to throw the ball. I was talking about that on the pregame show. I had a sneaking suspicion they were going to try to want to throw the ball to get back in track. And because my assessment is just run it against this team before they'd even started. And the first 2 passes were throws. And I'm like, here we go. And then they're going to lean back on the running game when they need it, and it would probably succeed. But no, then they changed gears after the 3rd play. But I'm still a little bit worried about that part of it. You know, one of the things you bring up, Indianapolis, Green Bay. Well, Indianapolis is a bad team, and people say, look, the offense is a mess. The owner doesn't know what he's doing and fired the offensive coordinator, then fired the head coach. But the defense is good. The defense is good in Indianapolis. So to me, there's a big difference and an obvious difference between Indianapolis and Green Bay. And that explains, and plus you're playing on the road versus playing at home. So a lot of things factor into it. But they were able to do these, you know, empty set looks and quarterback draws against the Colts to success. And that's, as I said, a very good defense. And if you're Green Bay, you would think, oh, they're doing this against a very good defense. Maybe we got to change some things, tighten things up. But no, that never an adjustment, never anything. And I give the Eagles credit, but I've given Nick Sirianni credit for this time and time again. He says he'll do what he needs to win to win a football game, and he does. He does. I mean, that's my biggest feather in his cap. He does. It might take him a while to get there. Might take him a little bit too long. Yesterday it did not. And when he got there, he just kept it there. And
right.
He should have.
And you mentioned the first 2 plays did not go well. And then after that, it all seemed to click in. So it didn't take them all that long to get it rocking and rolling yesterday. And while the passing game was not prolific, and what did you want? 800 yards of offense? If you're going to run for 300, you're only going to pass. You're only going to pass the ball so many times. Jalen Hurts was efficient with that too.
Yeah, it was efficient. You know, a little bit early, he was a little bit inaccurate, but he came on, you know, and he was fine overall. And he made some big plays in the passing game when he had the opportunity. It's not, my issue isn't mainly with Jalen Hurts. My issue is with, how do you compensate for the loss of Dallas Goedert? And maybe we'll keep talking about this until I get Dallas Goedert back, and then it'll be back, and it won't matter.
Johnny, they put up a 40 spot.
No, I'm talking about the passing
Doesn't the
game.
scoreboard for at least one day say, okay, they got through it without Dallas Goedert?
Well, yeah, but I don't think you can count on 363 yards rushing against any kind of competency.
Yeah, you got a point there. That's probably true.
Yeah, I mean, 1948. That's the last time the Eagles ran for that much. So I don't think they're going back to back against Tennessee, which, by the way, has a good defense. So that is more of my point. But yeah, we'll get to the nitpicking portion. But you got one of my nitpicks. Well, that and special teams. I mean, special teams are abysmal, and I keep. You're watching a team, and people forget because things move so quickly in the NFL. Green Bay was 13 wins last year, whatever they won, 13, 14, and they're out in the playoffs because of special teams. Boy, would that be a disaster. So the Eagles better fix that as well.
Now, that's very legit. It seemed like the Packers were starting in plus territory every time. The Eagles scored enough that they were kicking off all the time, and the Packers were ending up in outstanding field territory. And yes, the Eagles dominated the overall yardage of the game from the line of scrimmage. Well, that's because there are those hidden yards on special teams, and the Packers had a bunch of very good returns. Yeah, Michael Clay, when they break down the tape, is not going to be. There's going to be some rolling of eyes in the Eagles' overall coaching meetings because special teams is an issue as of right now. They're winning despite the fact that they're getting dominated on special teams in a week in and week out basis. But even on special teams, got to give the nod to Jake Elliott. I'll be honest. I was nervous about the 54-yard field goal he made late in the game. That basically put it away. He had missed a PAT earlier. Maybe the Mason Crosby missed PAT. Gave you a little relief about of anxiety with Jake having missed one himself earlier. It seemed like Sirianni knew ahead of time, play call on third down, not necessarily pushing the envelope and trying to give Jake the shot to make that field goal. Looked like he knew he was going to be able to hammer it home from 54. I'm sorry, I'm being honest, I did not. I thought it was about a 50-50 proposition, but damn, he rammed it right through the uprights, and that was a huge part of the game. It was basically the first time in the game as much celebratory plays as the Eagles made. You never really got the idea after they went up 13-0, and you blinked, they were up 13-0. You blinked again, it was 14-13 Packers. I never thought the game was put away until Jake Elliott made that field goal. Did you?
Yeah, I mean, it was one of the. I didn't get a feeling that Green Bay was ever going to win that game. If you get that kind of, but that was a sense because they were playing so poorly defensively. My issue with Jake Elliott isn't that he's not going to make. I see 60-yard kicks it seems like every week in this league now. I thought Justin Tucker was going to make it from 67 or 60, whatever the hell he kicked it from yesterday. I thought he was going to make it because I've seen so many 60-yard kicks this year. I don't know what's going on with these kickers, but their leg strength is now off the charts. My issue with Jake Elliott, though, is the Eagles are so effective offensively and they're so aggressive offensively, they never kick field goals. So the guy
that was one of the reasons why I worried about Jake making a 54-yard.
Yeah, but I just meant
out there all that often.
I just meant it's not the distance. I know he'd get it there from 54. It's the lack of activity. Yeah, that part that was his 11th field goal attempt. 11th field goal attempt in
11 games.
I mean, it's unbelievable. He's 9 out of 11. So from that standpoint, yeah, you don't see him. He doesn't get opportunities, and then you expect him to go out there and make a big kick. So from that, a little bit, I was concerned. But I can't really criticize the Eagles offense. I mean, he doesn't kick a lot of field goals because they are successful and they do go for it on fourth down, and they're very good on fourth down. So I'd rather have 7 points than 3 points. You know, Nick calls it a 4-point play, touchdown versus field goal. So it's the right decision. It's one of the reasons they're 10-1. And the aggressiveness, the NFL was way behind that. Doug Peterson, and congrats to Doug because he did it against Baltimore with the aggression, getting a big upset win. He kind of started that in the NFL, and it's continuing. And the Eagles are at the forefront of it, and it's worked for them.
Yeah, coming into that 54-yard field goal, Jake Elliott for the season from 40 plus, 1 for 3. He'd only tried 3 field goals from 40 yards out, and he'd missed 2 out of the 3. So, yeah, I was a little tentative no more because he slammed it right through the uprights. So good on him. Yeah, Eagles offense was superior yesterday, running game mostly, but the passing game, when it needed to be, got the job done as well. All right, we'll begin the nitpicking portion of the show, or at least I will. And Les Bowen's going to join us coming up in less than 5 minutes. The defense. Last week, just stellar after the first drive, shutting down the Colts running game. Packers ran it pretty efficiently. Now, they're always playing from behind because they give up the 13 points right away, so you knew it was going to be more passing than running. But they ran the ball pretty damn effectively yesterday. The veteran DTs that were brought in off the scrap heap got a week of practice and were less effective yesterday than they were last week. Is that still a concern that other teams can run the ball against Eagles? It's nice when you're playing from the lead and you're not as afraid against the run. Hopefully they don't fall behind against Tennessee next week because King Henry might run it 40 times. What did you see out of the Eagles' run defense last night?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. I think Green Bay is a good running team with 2 good running backs, but people don't realize A.J. Dillon, he is a horse, man.
Beast.
I mean, he is a horse. And Aaron Jones is just a really good, well-rounded back. They had more of an issue with, and just pure running game, stopping Dillon, which isn't typical. Typically, Jones is more the guy. Yeah, I thought they were fine. That's kind of where they are. They gave up what was it? 106. I'm looking at it. 12 for 43 with Jones. So they had Jones under 4 yards a carry. Dillon, as I said, they struggled with. That's part of how they play defense. I say it all the time. That's part of it. But the defense as a whole, I'm not as concerned as most people seem to be for this reason. We talked about the special teams, the offense as well, with couple issues with the back-to-back sneaks, gave them the short field when they weren't able to convert, which is rare. The A.J. Brown fumble, which A.J.'s not healthy. He's like me. He's been sick, threw up so much he burst a blood vessel in his eye, had another fumble. That's not typical A.J. Brown, but short field. I think they gave up 3 scoring drives over 50 yards. So more, and one of them was the Watson play, which is basically a rookie safety taking a bad angle who's not used to playing. And he's really fast, Christian Watson. But so a lot of things. I mean, a lot of buts and ifs, and I know people don't like that. But when you give up all those kickoff returns and you're starting at the 50 or the 40, I mean, that's part of it. And that's why we're talking about special teams. I'm much more worried about special teams than the defense. But as far as the running game, your original question, I say it every week on this show, Jody, that's part of it. They're willing to give up some in the running game to stop the passing game. Here's the problem. You give up the big play to Christian Watson, you're supposed to be limiting explosive plays. Now, if that's Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, it probably doesn't happen. But, again, ifs and buts.
Yeah, I'm still a little bit more nervous about the running game because, yes, they did win their previous 2 games before Sue and Linval Joseph got here, but they had been run against. I guess if you're going to take the mindset, hey, you won, who cares how many yards we gave up? That did concern me a little bit. And the fact that that was a game that they lost against Washington, they did win 1 out of 2. Yeah, it reared its ugly head again. Now, at some point, we will talk about the return of injured players. Not that you have any definitive, but I'm going to ask you to speculate a little bit on the Davis and Maddox injuries. And also, where does Chauncey Gardner fall into the mix as far as health goes? We'll talk about it for the next hour and 40 minutes here on Birds 365. And we're going to get a helping hand. Our buddy Les Bowen scheduled to join us coming up in the next couple of minutes. And then in hour number 2, Chris Franklin has become a regular day after mostly victories, 10 of them in 11 games. Eagles spot here with us on Birds 365. So get Chris Franklin up in hour number 2. But next, we got Les Bowen jumping in with John McMullen and Jody McDonald here on Birds 365.
Don't wait until after Thanksgiving for leftovers. It's the new leftover sales event at Jeff D'Ambrosio Destination Downingtown. Jeff must get rid of hundreds of new 2022 vehicles on the lot. Rams, Grand Cherokees, Wranglers. Jeff has them all for less. Jeff has reduced prices and payments to the lowest they've been all year. And Jeff knocks down high interest rates. Save thousands, more than anywhere else. Plus, get more for any trade or lease return. You always win at Jeff's. Great selection, best price. Hurry in now. Jeff D'Ambrosio Destination Downingtown. Nobody treats you better. Black Friday sales event.
At Pond Lehocky, we've recovered billions of dollars for our clients, and we're confident we can do the same for you. With over 250 years of combined courtroom experience, we've helped over 100,000 injured clients obtain some of the largest settlements in Pennsylvania. One conversation is all it takes to help you and your family get back on track. If you've been injured in an accident, give Pond Lehocky a call.
Go for the beers, go for the cheers, go for the hit and the hits, go for the scene, go for the screens, go for the gallery, go for the win, go to Ocean.
At Salus University, our graduates are among the most highly trained in their profession because of our unique emphasis on research, interprofessional collaboration, and early clinical exposure. Learn more about our programs at salus.edu.
On the day after a huge Eagles win against the Green Bay Packers, appreciate you streaming in here on Birds 365 with your Mac and Mac guys, McMullen and McDonald. We are joined by our bud Les Bowen, who has been covering the Eagles for a very long period of time. Are you outside again? Is it that night?
I am indeed.
With the dog. It was cold. Yeah. What are you doing?
It's not too bad. There's a little bit of wind, but, you know, keeps me on my toes.
There we go. Get you going, Les.
Appreciate you on your toes and getting up early with us. Here's where I want to start, Les. You've been covering this team for a long time. So you've seen Randall Cunningham and Donovan McNabb and Michael Vick, three of the best running quarterbacks in the last 30 years in the National Football League. Does Jalen Hurts have to take a backseat to any of those guys?
No, I don't think so. I didn't really cover Randall Cunningham. I did see him. I was here then. I wasn't covering the Eagles. He was an amazing, it looked so amazing the way he did it with that long angular frame and, the Carl Banks thing where he looks like a deer leaping over. That was visually more stunning, perhaps. And Michael Vick, I think, was faster, actually, than Jalen Hurts. Certainly in his young years, before he got to the Eagles, Vick was faster than Jalen Hurts. However, I never saw Michael Vick do that last night. That 157 yards, I don't really have any words for that. But the thing that impresses me about it is the 2 touchdown passes as well. I saw a thing from NFL research saying that they put together some of the passing stats and some of the running stats and basically said, at least since 1950, no quarterback has ever done this. And I think that's pretty darn remarkable.
Yeah, he was 21 yards away. Basically one big run one more for setting the all-time record for quarterbacks for running in a game. Justin Fields said it earlier this year. Colin Kaepernick also did it in the playoffs, had 181. So that's how close he was. I love the description. Jalen was asked after the game about his effectiveness and how, to explain it. And he said, I ran and they couldn't get me, which pretty much sums it up. I don't know. After watching the Indianapolis game, what the heck was Green Bay thinking? I mean, there's got to be a better 363 yards of rushing. I told Jody those are like college numbers. You don't see that in the NFL. Is it Jalen Hurts? Is it the offensive line? Is it the play calling? How do you get 363 yards rushing? We lost Les. Do you have them, Jody?
Give it to me again.
You don't have Les, do you?
No.
I didn't know if it was me or not. So 363 yards rushing. What is it, Jalen? Is it the coaching staff? Is it the offensive line? Obviously, it's a little bit of everything. But what's the biggest part of it?
And that's the most impressive thing about it, J-Mac. Oh, I do really believe it's a combination. If I just thought that Jalen Hurts' talent surpassed everything else and that he was doing this on his own, I'd say so. If I thought that I could go back there and run the football behind that Eagle offensive line, I'd say so. If I didn't think the Green Bay's lame defensive attempts against the run were part of it, I'd say so. No, it's a little bit of everything. And I hope we've got Les back. We're just saying, Les, that last night was, while I asked you specifically about Jalen Hurts, it was a team effort with the offensive line getting the job done and the Packers not being great against it. This team is now 10-1, and they are doing so as a team. So I think the credit's got to be shared across the board on the offense. Don't you agree?
Oh, sure. And you need to savor that if you're an Eagles fan. I know there are plenty of things you can look at from last night and, find fault with, and I certainly will and have. But 10-1, I mean, how many times are we going to see that as people around the Eagles? How many times are Eagles fans going to see that? You need to kind of sit back and take it in a little bit. And Hurts certainly was not the entire show. Miles Sanders had an incredible game. The offensive line, after some first half foibles, I thought, I still don't understand how they can ever not pick up 4th and inches. But, it's the second half, especially that last drive when they got the ball back after the onside kick and had to get a first down to run out the clock. And what was
Is Les freezing up on us again?
Yeah, we got breezing less. So evidently it is. He said
And he said it was nice out. I went out this morning. It was a little chilly. I had to put a coat on it.
And we got breezing less. So it isn't nice out, Les. You are freezing. Let's see if Les gets the joke. Nope, not yet. Do we have you back, Les?
No, we still got.
Well, we'll continue to talk.
Issues.
I know one thing because I know Les well enough. I know he's going to complain about the special teams, as well he should. Let's pop him up. Les, special teams, if you can hear me. I know you've been harping on that pretty much all season, rightfully so. I think it hit rock bottom last night. I mean, they couldn't cover a kick at all, and the kid on Green Bay was acting like he was Cordero Patterson, taking it 8 yards deep out of the end zone because they had no respect for the Eagles' kick coverage. Now, I know they're 10-1. I know this is nitpicking, but man, that's got to stop at some point. They got to figure that out. Well, Les, not hearing us?
No. It seems like Les isn't hearing us. We're seeing him move around. That wasn't the frozen Les, but it was the still can't have the conversation with Les. All right, speaking of conversations, what's the conversation between Nick Sirianni and Michael Clay like today? I know
that's interesting. That's interesting because, I laughed and I made, I laughed at people who were, say fire Jonathan Gannon after the loss to Washington. I mean, that to me is just ludicrous when you're 10-1. To a certain degree, I say the same thing with Michael Clay. Well, he's not getting fired. They're 10-1. You don't fire coaches when you're 10-1. But I will say after the season, it's got to be a conversation. And Les, do we have you?
Yes, I'm sorry. Yes.
So we're talking about special teams. We're talking about the
Yes.
kick coverage, and it was consistently bad. I mean, kick after every time that kid from Green Bay. I mean, 50-yard line, short fields. This has been going on to a certain degree all season.
Well,
but
something
really
has been,
bad.
it hasn't always been kickoff
Yeah.
coverage. In fact, for a while they were doing really well on kickoff coverage, but almost every week there's some sort of special teams disaster.
Yeah.
A fake punt that's converted, a field goal that was blocked in the Minnesota game that could have been a touchdown that would have turned the game around. Almost every week, and it's remarkable. I've never seen anything like it. I know our Rube Frank said last night on TV, you can't fire the special teams coach in the middle of the season, but I would. And he said, so, I at least bring in a consultant for this guy or something. I don't know. If it's a personnel problem, go get the personnel. It's not that hard to fix if it's personnel, but it's not like finding a quarterback or something. What in the world is going on with this, and why aren't they fixing it?
Hold on. Let's not move past one of your points there, Les, because I think it's an outstanding one. Just this past week, they brought in one of the cast-asides of the Colts coaching staff, right? The offensive guy to give a helping hand to the defense, to point at certain things that he thinks the Eagles defense is going to face in these next coming weeks. We see Howie Roseman pick up both Ndamukong Suh and Linval Joseph off the scrap heap. So they are all in, do whatever it takes, maybe even unconventional. Why not bring in a consultant for special teams this week? That wouldn't fly in the face of the way NFL does things, would it, you guys?
No, I don't think so. But it is interesting because Les points out it's been consistent and it's been varied. It's been a different portion of special teams. Even yesterday, you had the missed PAT before Jake Elliott made the big field goal late. The punt return game, we've talked a lot about Britton Covey. They seem to like him. there's been talk about the blocking when it comes to returns. Boston Scott seemed to give them a little bit more juice in the kickoff returns, so they made a shift there. They started with Quez Watkins, so they're not adverse to making changes. I don't know. I'm at a loss. I don't understand. This is such a good team.
Yeah.
And they can't figure out special teams. It's kind of
amazing.
If you're
10-1, you have enough talent to cover kicks. Yeah. I'm sorry. Years ago, Malcolm Jenkins would run downfield on these things.
Yes.
If you're having a problem, I know this is crazy, but put Darius Slay out there. Put somebody, find somebody that can run down the field and make a tackle. That last kickoff, Elliott almost kicked it onto Patterson Avenue, and the guy still ran it out and still got 50 yards. Yeah. It was unbelievable. I know it sounds like we're focusing on the negative here after a huge win, but it was almost as extraordinary as the 363 rushing yards. It really was. I can't remember ever seeing anything quite like it.
Yeah, well, the reason why I'm harping on it, Les, is it was, and Jody brings up, it was a 40-33 game, and it really wasn't, out of the Eagles had to pick up the big first down. Elliott had to kick a big field goal. Green Bay was still in the game, and the reason they were still in the game is because they had all these short fields. The defense only gave up 3 drives. I think it was 3 drives of over 50 yards. So it was all short fields, enabling Green Bay to stay in the football game, which to me is why it's a big concern. And those hidden yards, he had, I think it was 100. I have to look at it. 170 some odd yards in kickoff returns. Now think about that hidden yardage. Yeah.
In three kickoff returns, I believe. I think they had 2 that they didn't return, perhaps. I don't know. But, the defense, didn't play real well. But you can't have those short fields with this defense. It's not that kind of defense. No defense is that kind of defense where you continually want to you're almost in field goal range when the first time you snap the ball. It's absurd.
Yeah. 5 for 172, by the way. On kickoff returns. 5 for 172.
That's not good. The Eagles never get those kind of returns. So when the opposition does, it does sting pretty good. Defense, let's stay there. They lose Chauncey Gardner-Johnson relatively early in the game. To Reed Blankenship's credit, he comes in, steps in front of a pass. That actually was a pretty big play and a momentum changer in the game. But then later, he takes a bad angle on Christian Watson, and that was a mismatch as far as pure speed goes. Watson just ran by him and also Marcus Epps for the long touchdown. How painful and we don't know yet if Watson's going to be out for a while. They're already down Maddox. Is the defense all of a sudden pretty shorthanded if Gardner-Johnson's going to be out for a bit?
I don't know. Before last night, Reed Blankenship had a good training camp. But my main memory of him before last night in an actual regular season game was when he ran into the punter in one of those special teams gaffes that we were talking about earlier. Yeah. He really hadn't played more than a handful of defensive snaps. So I thought he did remarkably well considering, and he was a good tackler. I guess we have to kind of keep fingers crossed there. I thought early in the game with him and Josiah Scott, subbing for Vontae Maddox, who's still out for a few more weeks, it might be a long night over the middle. I don't think they were great over the middle, but he got the interception right away. And hundreds of people on Twitter were very happy to remind me of that after I tweeted that, they might have a long night over the middle. But, I guess we have to hope.
That's not like them, Les. That's not like
really.
them.
People are weird. I immediately tweeted again, making fun of myself. Yeah. And everybody ignored that. And instead, for hours after the game, even, I was getting, you said,
I know.
But anyway, I think, it's not as bad as if they lost like Darius Slay or Bradbury or, TJ Edwards or someone like that. But the guy was leading the league in interceptions, CJ Gardner-Johnson. And that's a significant thing. And I hope, certainly that he's not going to be out for very long. If it's ribs, that can really vary depending on the severity and so forth.
Yeah, he looked like he was in a lot of pain. I thought it was a stinger when it first happened, but and then all of a sudden it pops up ribs, which is a little bit more concerning. Stingers, not that they're not concerning, but usually they calm down pretty quickly, and
right.
It could be a little bit of a week-to-week thing, at least with Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. So we'll see, and that is a big concern. But I start to think, you mentioned 10-1, Les. I mean, every time this team has been 10-1, which is not often, it has bode very well for how far they're going to go. Then you start thinking about things. Aaron Rodgers is there, obviously. Slay made a big deal during the week saying he wanted his GOAT ball. He got one from Tom Brady, got one from Drew Brees, interception. He's never intercepted Aaron Rodgers. He's played him, I think, 15 times. So that was the 16th time. And he said he wanted one. And he never throws it to him because he never throws it to anybody. Aaron Rodgers doesn't throw interceptions. Now he's thrown them a little bit more this year. But when I start to think about Aaron Rodgers, who in the 7 years, I looked it up, Les, in the 7 years Slay was in Detroit, he threw 38 total interceptions. The guy doesn't throw interceptions. That's 7 years, 7 seasons, 38 interceptions. He throws interceptions to Josiah Scott and Reed Blankenship. And both of them, that was their first NFL interceptions. And we lost Les again. So it was a long-winded question, my fault. So I'll throw it to you, Jody. Hopefully you were listening.
I was.
Both had their first NFL interceptions against Aaron Rodgers. At some point, you say the stars are aligning here. This is crazy, the season the Philadelphia Eagles are having.
And I thought the stars were aligning against Darius Slay because he was so badly wanting that GOAT interception, which he didn't get.
He should have had it. Went off his helmet.
Off his helmet, that Josiah Scott plays the rebound perfectly and comes down with the pick. Was a little weird. Let me follow your question and spin one off for Les. I speculated on this here on Birds 365 during the week and then yesterday morning on WIP with my buddy Glennie Mack. Is this the last visit that Aaron Rodgers will make to Lincoln Financial Field in a green versus green fashion, meaning the Eagles versus the Packers? Do you think with the way last night went, where his contract situation sits, his age and everything else added in, do you think we've seen the last Rodgers versus the Eagles matchup, Les?
A lot of people were talking along that regard during the game because Jordan Love came in and played well. And, that's why they drafted Jordan Love initially. But Rodgers was, I think, pretty strong after the game that he's planning to play next week. So I don't know. I mean, the Packers are in a weird spot. They're 4-8. What is their future with Aaron Rodgers? I'm moving around here I hope I don't give any of the guests vertigo, but I'm trying to figure out how to stay connected with you guys. What is their future with Aaron Rodgers? How does this all fit together for them going forward? It's very possible. I think we'll see Aaron Rodgers again, but it might not be in a Packer uniform. They might want to do something there, to rebuild their team, which frankly isn't very good.
All right, Les, I got this, so I'm sure you get it. I'm sure you've gotten it. And I got it again yesterday. Jalen Hurts ran the football 17 times, not sustainable, can't do it. Why do the Eagles keep doing it? From my perspective, I mean, the guy protects himself. He seems to never get it. He did take a little bit of a blow to his neck that seemed to affect him a little bit. I don't know how you legislate that. I don't see a ton of designed runs. There's some, but if you look at 17, I mean, throw 4 quarterback sneaks right off the top. So that knocks it down to 13.
Right.
Then you have the off schedule stuff. So maybe you have 5 or 6 design runs. I haven't gone through it to get the total number. I don't think it's that big of a deal. Do you think it's that big of a deal?
I kind of do, but I just don't think you can depend on your quarterback running 150 yards, regularly. That's not how this offense is supposed to work.
Well,
and I guess the one thing here is that you don't have Dallas Goedert right now, and that seems to be a huge deal for the passing game. A.J. Brown isn't really right. He's got the ankle. Last night he had been ill all week and lost weight and had the blood vessel in his eye and all that. And ultimately they need to rely a little less on Jalen Hurts running around, but it's remarkable that they can just pull that lever when they really need it. And I wouldn't discount, the fact that they can win that way, because you're not supposed to win with the quarterback running, and I mean, he can get hurt. I've been down that road too many more times with quarterbacks. Donovan McNabb thought he could never get hurt until he did.
Well, everybody's going to get hurt. I'm with you there. But you can't legislate it, so I can't worry about it.
Yeah, I agree. We're at a point now where you have to win, and the yards were there last night. I mean, the field opened up in front of him. Every time he scrambled, it seemed like there was 20 yards there, and he wasn't taking a ton of crushing hits. I was not as concerned about it, and again, he did throw the 2 touchdown passes. It wasn't like a Pop Warner game or something where you just hand the ball to the big kid, and have him run down the field. I'm in the same boat with you on that, I guess.
Les, how is Miles Sanders feeling this morning? He has his best career rushing day as a member of the Philadelphia Eagles, and it kind of floats under the radar because, oh, by the way, the quarterback rushed for more yards than he did, which doesn't happen in the National Football League often. But if they don't have the game that they had for Miles Sanders last night, I don't know that they win that game. The Packers did put up 30-plus points. Miles Sanders is having a hell of a year, and I think we're not giving him quite enough due for how big a contributor is to this offense right now. Is that fair?
Yeah, and I think he's pretty happy this morning. If you put his yards and Hurts' yards together, it's exactly 300 rushing yards, 143 and 157. Miles Sanders is looking for a contract in the offseason, and this has to help. There's no way it hurts. I mean, everybody in the league saw him do that last night. He's running very differently, I think, this season. Not very differently, but you really see him stick his nose in and get that extra yard or two now. And you didn't always see that in the past. And he's staying pretty healthy, too. And, there was a time when I wondered if he could have a game like he had last night, without hurting himself. And he did. And I give him a lot of credit. And, he's a big part of what they're doing right now.
Yeah, he is. And that's, I think about this team and I think about where they are, Les. And I also think about how many people are on the final year of their contract.
Yeah.
I mean, this is seize the moment time. And they did so when they brought in Linval Joseph, who I think continues to play very well. I think he played well again. Ndamukong Suh, not as much. I don't, again, I didn't see much from Robert Quinn, although he did have a quarterback hit that I must have missed during the game.
Me too.
I do find it interesting that they are going all in with the championship window open. Is that with the acknowledgement that, look, some of these guys aren't going to be here? I mean, there's not TJ Edwards is a guy you mentioned. I mean, what a year TJ Edwards is having. What kind of contract do you have to give TJ Edwards?
I think they do re-sign him. But you're right. A lot of these guys, a lot of key guys don't have contracts for next year, and they're not all going to get contracts here. I think Jeff McClain wrote a piece in the Inquirer yesterday about Jalen Hurts' contract, which is up. That you can extend him starting this offseason. And once they do that, the landscape changes. It really does. Now, we don't know how much the cap's going to go up. It could go up a lot, but it'll be a very different scenario. This year they had room to bring in everybody, literally. And they're not going to have that next year. They're going to have to make some tough choices, and some people are going to step up. Somebody was asking me last night about Isaac Seumalo. Isaac Seumalo's gone, I think. First of all, I think Kelsey plays another year because I think he's having a ton of fun this season, and he wants to win another Super Bowl. And if they don't win the Super Bowl this year, he's going to want to stick around. And I think Juergens is your right guard next year. I don't think they're going to give Isaac Seumalo money. They've got too much else going on. A lot of people don't think they should try to re-sign Bradbury. I think this team hasn't had two solid outside corners in more than a decade, and maybe you should re-sign Bradbury. Everybody says
it's going to be expensive, though. He's playing at such a high level.
When did they last draft a good corner?
Yeah,
20 years ago.
But that's the problem. I mean, Bradbury came here. He was cut late by the Giants because of salary cap issues. He's playing under a team-friendly deal. I don't think it's going to be team-friendly next year.
No, it isn't. No.
Maybe the age helps the Eagles a little bit to keep the number down, but he's playing so well. He's another guy, Kaiser White. What do you do with Kaiser White? You have Nakobe Dean.
I think that's your answer right there. I don't think Kaiser White is here next year. He probably should be in the best of all possible worlds, but I don't think they're going to have that room, and I think Nakobe Dean is what you have to do there. But there's going to be a lot of decisions like that.
Let me get both of your thoughts on this one. The Packer player who went down after the play was over, he's walking off the field and just kind of goes down like someone had a rifle in the upper section of Lincoln Financial Field last night. Just looked weird. It happened a couple of times yesterday in the Eagles game and a couple of times in other games in the National Football League. The teams are taking advantage of injury issues, that they've got to stop the game, and it changes the momentum of the game. And I get it. You can't look like a-holes if you're the NFL and throw flags on it. Or should they? Do you put subjectivity into it in the referee choice if they don't believe a guy is actually hurt? It's going down just to stop the clock or change the momentum of the game. John and I often talk about the fact that the NFL is on a big picture over-legislated. But this is one that I actually think they could and should legislate more. Am I just whining because of last night, or is my complaint legit, Les?
Your complaint is extremely legit, but I don't see how you would do that in a practical sense.
I don't know how you could do it.
I don't see how it would work. I mean, Jair Alexander was legitimately battling stuff, throughout the game. You can kind of tell. I mean, that was the linebacker 58 that did the flop, and they had the medical personnel run out and all that stuff, but you could tell from rewinding the tape, what he had done. I didn't see anything else from the Packers that was like that. And I hate when the fans start, booing everybody that goes down. A guy's writhing in pain and they're booing. That just isn't a good thing. But I don't know what you do. It's silly. I mean, all they were trying to do was disrupt the tempo there, and
Chip again. Chip brought so much to the NFL that he doesn't give credit for. And people doing that to try to stop the tempo. But I will, Les, you bring up all it takes is one person, right? It was a weird night. It was really hot.
Yeah.
It was humid. It was raining. Not hot, but hotter than it should be this time of year. Nick even brought up cramping. You could be walking and get a cramp. Anybody who's going to sleep at night and gets a cramp in their leg, it just pops up out of nowhere. And, the minute you're an NFL official and you're saying you're not injured, you're injured, they can't do that. I mean, it might be frustrating, but
right.
Hey, if you're beating a team like a drum and they're doing it, you're beating a team like a drum.
Yeah.
So I don't know how you change that.
And it was weird because at least once I saw I don't remember now who it was, a Green Bay player who was obviously was injured and was like hobbling off the field, desperately trying to get to the side. He was doing the opposite of that. So I don't know. I don't know if they talked about it. I don't know if this was the linebacker's idea, on his own. I don't like it. I think they should maybe talk to coaches about it privately. If you have a team that's doing this a lot, maybe the league, goes back and looks at stuff and hands out a fine to the coach or something. I don't know, but it is unseemly, but I'm with John. I don't know what you do about it.
Last thing for me, lesson, we always appreciate it when you stream in with us. I said to John earlier in the show that until Jake Elliott kicked that field goal, the game sat in the balance for me. I didn't feel like the Eagles had won the game. They had the lead. I wasn't uncomfortable, but I wasn't 100% comfortable. They checked off a big box for me last night in that they won a shootout. Back and forth, both teams going up down the field. They hadn't done that yet this year. Did it, won it, check the box. And they checked one other box for me yesterday. They won a game where they didn't win the coin flip. They got the football first and drove it right down the field. Nick Sirianni didn't get a chance to say, I'll defer. I wanted them to get the ball first last night. I hope they won the coin toss and took the ball. They didn't. They lost the coin toss, but they got the ball and marched down the field. Will that give Sirianni at least some shot of having an open mind on the coin flip going forward? Because I expect them to now win the coin flip the last 6 games. They've been that good at that. Will we actually see the Eagles have a game where they don't defer?
Jody, this is something that I actually had not given any thought to whatsoever. But
I think it is stupid stuff. I apologize for that, but it bothers me.
Notice, I think one of the reasons you want to win the coin flip is for that first possession of the second half.
Yes.
And the Packers had that, and they got shut down. It was a 3 and out, I'm pretty sure, that first possession of the second half. And that's what's really important there. And I was glad to see the Eagles do that. Maybe he will. It certainly turned out in their favor last night. They got going. You were right. They had the momentum. They went right down the field. Maybe at home you should probably do that, perhaps.
I think it's dictated by the opponent. If you really believe that you can march down the field and score that first possession, you want to establish something. And when last night it was Jalen Hurts running the football, which they did tremendously. Go ahead, give me the ball. Rather than just automatically the numbers say, analytics say you must defer.
Right.
That does bother me. Most times I will defer, but I just don't want to make it 100%, and it's been 100% with the Eagles so far this year.
I understand.
They're 2-0, by the way, when they lose the toss. They're 2-0. They're undefeated. Undefeated when they lose the toss.
Wow.
That's great stuff. We'll let you get inside. Thank you much for streaming in. We're going to get you back up in a couple of weeks. Thanks for doing it with us this morning.
I appreciate it, guys. Take care.
Our pleasure. Les Bowen here with us on Birds 365. I forgot that they'd only lost the toss one other time, and yes, they had won that game as well. So even though, do the quick math, Joe, that makes them 7-1 in games that they win the toss and defer.
8-1. 8-1, win, 2-0.
2-0.
2-0.
8-1's a pretty good winning percentage.
Yeah.
Not
10-1's a pretty good winning percentage. So.
Well, they're 8-1 when they win the coin toss. That's good. They're undefeated when they lose the coin toss. That's better. He's John McMullen. I'm Jody McDonald with the Mac and Mac guys. Come back. We certainly got more Eagle stuff to dig into. I do want to talk about their competition in the NFC. And we've also got Chris Franklin joining us in less than 20 minutes here on Birds 365.
At Pond Lehocky, we've recovered billions of dollars for our clients, and we're confident we can do the same for you. With over 250 years of combined courtroom experience, we've helped over 100,000 injured clients obtain some of the largest settlements in Pennsylvania. One conversation is all it takes to help you and your family get back on track. If you've been injured in an accident, give Pond Lehocky a call.
Jim Gardner is an icon.
A Philadelphia treasure.
He's a mentor, a pace setter.
Jim is my North Star.
He's trusted, revered,
appreciated.
He is Action News.
He's compassionate, honest,
and fair. He is extremely dedicated, motivated, and always seeking the truth.
He's also funny. We are a team of many.
Jim Gardner is our leader, and we're lucky to have him.
Go passionately. Go fearlessly. Go confidently.
Go Birds!
Go confidently towards your goals with First Trust, Philly's hometown bank for nearly 90 years, and the official bank of the Philadelphia Eagles. We're focused on getting you over the goal line. So go with conviction. Go with trust.
Go Birds!
And go forward with us by your side. First Trust Bank, the official bank of Philadelphia dreams. Oh, and go Birds.
We all know that taxes are just part of life. It's true during our working years, but also in retirement. But what you might not know is up to 85% of your Social Security benefits might be taxed. Our team at Thrive Financial has helped retire thousands of people across the Delaware Valley by asking questions they never knew they needed to ask, including how their Social Security benefits might be taxed. It's time to be proactive on taxes. Get your Thrive Retirement Tax Playbook today.
Appreciate you streaming in on a Victory Monday here on Birds 365. Eagles get a 40-33 win last night. Sunday Night Football, John McMullen's favorite. He loves those Sunday night games. Sucking it up and getting it done with us today on just a couple hours sleep here on Birds 365. But the Eagles get to kick back, rest, and relax today. We'll hear from Coach Nick Sirianni later today. You were part of the post-game stuff. Anybody say anything that surprised you? Hard fought, up and down the field win, but again, Eagles get to 10-1. I don't know if you at least leaned on. I don't know if you mentioned the exact details. This is the fifth time in the history of Philadelphia Eagles they've been 10-1 in a given football season. In those other 4 years, championship before the Super Bowl, and the other three all Super Bowl appearances, including the Super Bowl win a couple of years ago. So when they've gone 10-1, they have gotten to the championship level each and every single time. That bodes very well for where this team is right now. Anybody say anything after the game that specifically grabbed your attention, Johnny Mac?
No. I mean, wins are wins, man. I mean, it's a party atmosphere. Everybody's happy. Everything's copacetic. You know, it's tough to even take the issues seriously because you just ran for 363 yards. And I mean, it doesn't get much better than that. So, and we do bring up things like special teams and Nick said it's got to get better and yada yada, and understandably it does have to get better, but it's hard to take these issues seriously when you're winning like the Eagles are winning. And the positive to me, especially offensively, 500 total yards, and the passing, even though not a high volume, some big plays. So there were some good things there as well. There was a little bit of a lull, starting in Houston, really. They beat Houston's really bad. And, it was like a workmanlike performance, probably a little bit bored, to be honest, against a bad football team. But they won the game. Then you had Washington, which was the only loss. Then you had Indy, which they had to scratch and claw against a mediocre team. This was the first time they kind of got out of that lull a little bit, at least offensively. So that part of it's positive. And then you have the potential returns you were talking about. Jordan Davis, potential to come back this week. We'll see. I saw him jogging a little bit. So I don't know if you need to push it because you have Linval Joseph and Ndamukong Suh now. But he's eligible to come back. Avonte Maddox, I think that was a more serious injury. That was a serious injury. And that happened in Houston. So we'll have to keep an eye on it. And Dallas Goedert as well is supposed to be back in the regular season, but that's a long time frame still, with 6 games remaining, if it's the final game. But I think if you can get all of those 3 players back for the playoffs, you mentioned it, previous times being 10-1. I mean, this is championship or bust right now, Jody.
Sure.
That's what it is. Anything less would be a disappointment.
And it should be, because the record says so. And the other thing, and you and I have discussed this previously, they're going to have Jalen Hurts on the final year of his rookie contract next year. When and if they get a contract extension done with him, and the when is not till after the season's over and done with. By rule, they can't even talk to him about a contract extension until he enters the final year of his rookie deal, which is after the season is over and done with. Man, is he going to get paid? We've had conversations about this starting last year at the end of the season, after the season was over and done. Are they going to go get another quarterback? They made the run at Deshaun Watson. They made the run at Russell Wilson. That didn't happen. All right, Jalen's our guy. What's it going to, if even if it's by default, if he's their guy, what should they be talking about as far as a contract extension goes? Oh, we started in the 20s with those numbers. We got to the high 20s. We got into the 30s. We got past 35. Oh, it's a $40 million per year conversation now with the kind of numbers he had. That's where it starts, and it probably goes north of that. So, yeah, it's going to be tough to put together the kind of roster that Howie Roseman has done this year, because they're doing so with a quarterback who's making $1 million.
Yeah.
They'll have that opportunity again next year, but then it's going to get really hard. So, yeah, the Eagles every year should be a championship year. But with the direction of the team and the contracts and the cap situation they have, oh, yeah, you want to go ahead and get another Super Bowl championship, because it's going to get tougher with this franchise forward from here.
Yeah. And I apologize, by the way. I'm under the weather. I keep coughing, but nothing I can do. So I'm trying to get through it. But when and Les brought this up, and I have this, and I get why people think it, but I don't know if this is necessarily true. When you talk about contracts, the salary cap's going up. We all know the new TV deals, it's going up. And people say, well, that will give you a little bit more room. You can pay Jalen and do some other things because the salary cap's going up. I don't think so. Quarterbacks, no, by the way, it's going up. That's not what I'm saying. But quarterback contracts set the market. In other words, agents know the salary cap's going up, and that's baked into the quarterback deals. The quarterback deals are only going up. As the salary cap goes up, incrementally, the quarterback deals go up.
Right.
So it's not going to be, oh, you're going to get the regular quarterback deal and get all this extra space for everybody else. No, that's going in, and that's going up more than any other position because that's what sort of runs the NFL. So I don't think that's going to be a positive that people think it's going to be. In fact, I'm pretty sure it's not. Yeah, he's going to get a boatload of money, and you're going to have to build the roster differently. Now, as you mentioned, Howie Roseman's smart enough to get that final year out of his rookie deal and structure the extension when they do get it done to the point it won't kick in until 2020. Where are we? 2023, so 2024. But yeah, Jody, it's going to be a different world.
Yeah, the teams that are going to benefit from the expanded salary cap next year are teams like the Chiefs. Andy Reid will do just fine because they got the Mahomes deal done. So when the cap expands, you're going to want to be the guy who's already got your quarterback under contract, not the guy who's working to get their quarterback under contract, because you are 100% right, John. Oh, the quarterbacks are going to ride that gravy train. That expanded cap is going to be baked into the dollars that they're going to be asking and or getting if they get to the open market. Jalen Hurts is going to get expensive. Right now, you've got an MVP level player playing for a first ever contract, a second round draft pick money quarterback playing for an MVP. That's a major advantage to have. And you need to take advantage of it. And Eagles have to the tune of a 10-1 record, but they're going to have to keep it going in the playoffs because there is the potential pot of gold at the end of this rainbow season, and that's a Super Bowl championship. But I'll give credit to a couple other teams. They did keep the pressure on the Eagles this weekend. Cowboys won against the Giants, although that late touchdown they gave up might have beaten some of us who thought the Cowboys were going to win by 3 touchdowns and may have wagered on that. Backdoor cover by the Giants crushed me. Took me out of my 14 parlay. Thank you very much, Dallas, for just going into prevent defense there at the end. But they won, and they're 2 games behind the Eagles. The Vikings, just a game behind the Eagles, found a way to win late on Thanksgiving as well. And Johnny's Super Bowl pick, the 49ers. I watched some of that game late yesterday. Their defense is legit. It's real.
Yeah.
The Saints
49ers scare me. 49ers scare me. Cowboys are very good. They don't scare me. Well, if I'm the Eagles now, I think the 49ers are the biggest concern. Giants are who I thought they were. Vikings are who I thought they were. And the fact that they can't stop anybody. They managed to win games. They have good playmakers, but their defense is so bad. I look at it as the Eagles, and if anybody's going to knock off the Eagles, it's probably going to be the 49ers and then the Cowboys.
I would agree with you. Those are the top 3 teams, and I would put them in that order. Who was I debating with yesterday? Oh, it was Zach Berman on WIP. He said Eagles, then Cowboys, then 49ers. I said, why would you rate the Cowboys ahead of 49? I know they're 1 game better as per the standings, but he said, well, the quarterback position. What has Dak Prescott ever done in the playoffs? At least Jimmy G's won some games. I know Jimmy G never comes out and throws for 350 and 5 touchdowns, but he has won playoff games. And, oh, by the way, if you just go by quarterback passer rating, which some people like, some people don't, I think it's one of those things you have to acknowledge is the best we have. While imperfect, it is the best way we have of judging quarterbacks. Jimmy G is rated above Dak Prescott right now. So, yeah, I'm with you, J-Mac. My Super Bowl choice, Eagles. Your Super Bowl choice in the NFC, 49ers. They're the 2 best teams in the NFC right now. And if they're not playing for a championship come late January. I'd be surprised. I think they've kind of distanced themselves from the rest of the conference.
Yeah, Thanksgiving's always the time of year where the real contenders start to distance themselves. The pretenders start to show their pretenders. And as I mentioned, I think we've kind of seen that already start to develop. And, the also-rans also start giving up and start thinking about next April more than so this is the time of year. And the Eagles are clearly, look, I think they're still clearly the best team in the NFL. But they have to get healthy. And healthy, they need specifically Dallas Goedert and Avonte Maddox, even more than Jordan Davis, because they've been able to at least replace Jordan Davis a little bit with Linval Joseph and Ndamukong Suh, more Linval. But those other two, they have not been able to replace. Josiah Scott had the big interception, which I mentioned, which is nice, but overall play has not been up to anywhere near Avonte Maddox's standard. And obviously tight end has been an issue, especially in the passing game without Dallas Goedert. If they can get those two players back and playing at a high level, they're good. They're really good.
Right. And you fully expect the coach, Nick Sirianni, to give you an exact timeline on when those players.
To the minute, Jody. To the minute.
You know who I had to tell? I thought of Sirianni this weekend. I was lucky enough, wise enough to get in on the Jets minus only 5.5 because someone told me on Saturday there's no way that Justin Fields is going to play. That the Bears kept insisting that he was questionable for the game. And someone gave me the info before they had advanced Nathan Peterman onto the roster. If that wasn't a dead giveaway that Justin Fields wasn't playing, I don't know what was. And then in the warm-ups, they say Trevor Siemian's not going to play, that he injured himself while warming up, and that Peterman's actually going to start, and then the game starts and Siemian's in there. So I don't know if that was a ruse or whatever. But Chicago's playing that same game Nick Sirianni does. Information is value, and I'm going to hold it as close to my chest as possible.
Yeah, nobody cares, Chicago. Nobody cares if it's Trevor Siemian or Nathan Peterman.
Those of us who were considering betting the Jets absolutely cared yesterday, Johnny Mac.
I meant, I don't mean gambling. I meant football-wise. But the competitive advantage, the nonsense.
And by the way, the Jets are in a playoff race too, so it had football implications.
But I meant the Jets are winning that game, whether it's Trevor Siemian or Nathan Peterman. That's the point.
They were trying to make you believe that Justin Fields was going to play, which I'm telling you, someone told me there's no chance, Jody. There is no chance he's going to get anywhere near the field. But according to the Bears, they were going, oh, he's questionable. We don't know. It was a game time decision. No, it wasn't. It was a friggin' Wednesday decision that he was out of the game.
Yeah. The Bears are I don't like what the Bears have done this year. I don't like how they built around Justin Fields to begin with. And then it took them way too long to take advantage of what Justin Fields does well. And now, when I heard all that, and I wasn't paying as close attention as you were as a Jets guy, but my estimation was there were more people in the decision than should have been. That's how I got it. I was like, this is the GM's involved, about who's playing quarterback, and that's always a bad situation. That's how I took it. Okay, I don't know if that's the case, but that's how I
didn't, and I don't know if it was the case either, but I thought it was more a Matt Eberflus comparison to Nick Sirianni thing. Ooh, somehow I'm going to gain an competitive advantage by not being honest about where my players are at. That's the way I saw it. And yes, oh, by the way, Trevor Siemian played like Trevor Siemian, and they weren't beating the legend that was Mike White either way for the Jets. All right, well, but that stuff aside, I just thought it was a fun comp between Sirianni because He's going to tell Johnny Mack. He's going to whisper in his ear exactly when Avante Maddox and Jordan Davis are going to come back. Dallas Goedert. Johnny
He might
Mack
tell Chris Franklin, but he's not telling me.
You think Franklin's got a better chance? Maybe he's already told Franklin. Let's find out. We'll take a quickie timeout. Come back here on Birds 365 from NJ.com. Chris Franklin is next. Stay right here with us.
At Pond Lehocky, we've recovered billions of dollars for our clients, and we're confident we can do the same for you. With over 250 years of combined courtroom experience, we've helped over 100,000 injured clients obtain some of the largest settlements in Pennsylvania. One conversation is all it takes to help you and your family get back on track. If you've been injured in an accident, give Pond Lehocky a call.
Jim Gardner is an icon.
A Philadelphia treasure.
He's a mentor, a pace setter.
Jim is my North Star.
He's trusted, revered.
Appreciated.
He is Action News.
He's compassionate. Honest.
And fair. He is extremely dedicated, motivated, and always seeking the truth.
He's also funny. We are a team of many.
Jim Gardner is our leader, and we're lucky to have him.
Go passionately. Go fearlessly. Go confidently.
Go Birds!
Go confidently towards your goals with First Trust, Philly's hometown bank for nearly 90 years, and the official bank of the Philadelphia Eagles. We're focused on getting you over the goal line. So go with conviction. Go with trust.
Go Birds!
And go forward with us by your side. First Trust Bank, the official bank of Philadelphia dreams. Oh, and go Birds.
We all know that taxes are just part of life. It's true during our working years, but also in retirement. But what you might not know is up to 85% of your Social Security benefits might be taxed. Our team at Thrive Financial has helped retire thousands of people across the Delaware Valley by asking questions they never knew they needed to ask, including how their Social Security benefits might be taxed. It's time to be proactive on taxes. Get your Thrive Retirement Tax Playbook today.
Appreciate you streaming in with us here on Birds 365 on a victorious Monday. You got McMullen, McDonald, and our bud, Chris Franklin from NJ.com, NJ Media as well. Indoors today. Now, we had Les Bowen on earlier, and he said, oh, it's nice outside. I thought for sure if we got Les outside, we were going to get you outside. What's got you inside today, Franklin?
It is windy. I don't know if you guys it is windy. I mean, all of a sudden, I want to go like, hey, so we're here, and there's no turkeys dropping or anything like that, WKRP, so I don't want anything like that going on. So, yeah.
Nice. WKRP reference.
I'm older
like
than
it.
I feel.
Turkey Day reference. So, well, let's start with the running game because Jalen Hurts, Miles Sanders, Chris Franklin, Jody McDonald, I think everybody had 100 yards yesterday. Why is this team so good running the football, Chris? I've been asking it. Now, obviously, it has to do with everything. The offensive line, the quarterback, the running back, Miles Sanders having a career year. But if you were to lean on one thing more than the others, what is the most important part? That's college game talk, 363. You don't do that in the NFL. Why is this team so good at it?
You know, it was college. Like the thing is, they didn't run the score up enough because they still. I think there's questions about who's the number one team still. I think it was, but I think overall the reason is going to be because Jeff Stoutland. I think when you look at the job that he's done, yeah, when you look at the job that he's done with this offensive line, when you look at the way that they're able to execute, and he's also, you got to give him credit because he is the run game coordinator as well too. I mean, we know Shane Steichen calls the plays. You know, Nick Sirianni has a heavy hand in it. But when it comes to marrying them together and helping devise the game plan to have success, you got to give credit to Stoutland. And boy, it showed yesterday the way they were able to get some of those lanes. You know, you're right. We could have had 100 yards ourselves. You know, maybe we would be in position to get a contract extension still like Miles Sanders. So I think overall, a lot of the credit has to go to him.
I think what the Eagle fans can be most buoyed by after yesterday's win is the fact that they can beat you different ways. John and I both agree they need to get Goddard back. I thought Stoll had a good night blocking shoot. I even saw Jackson throw a nice block. The fill-in tight ends, if they can get the job done blocking, even if they need to find their passing yards elsewhere, I think they'll be okay. Love to get Goddard back. They will get Goddard back at some time, but until then, I think they'll be all right. They can beat you a couple different ways, Chris, whether it's just running it down your throat, giving them Miles for 150, Jalen going for 150. If they have to pass the ball, Devontae and AJ, if AJ can hold on to the ball, a couple of fumbles have me nervous over the last couple of weeks. They can basically pick and choose the way they want to move the ball on offense right now, can they not?
They can. The main thing, as long as they make sure they execute, I keep hearing that word execute. The problem is it's true because when you look at the way that they're able to scheme up their guys to be open, there's no question about that. And that's what I think separates a lot of the really good coordinators and a lot of good coaches from when it comes to the Adam Gases of the world, where these guys can scheme it up, but if they're not effectively teaching it, they're not effectively making sure these guys are in the right positions to do what they do. And if the players aren't the right fit for what they're trying to do, that's where you get it. And I look at the way it all starts, I think offensively, we look at Jalen Hurts, the way he's playing. I thought he'd have a good season. He's playing beyond my expectations when it comes to that. He's going to shoot past things at the stat lines I thought he'd have. And you look at what he's able to do now and grasp that and continue to develop. I think it starts there defensively. I think it's a three-layer type deal. I know it's hard to say that after they put up a 33 on them, but when you look at what they were able to do, like in the base sense of what they're able to do when it comes to getting takeaways and stuff like that, I think that's key too. But I mean, offensively, yeah, it's tough to stop this team right now. And I would not want to be a defensive coordinator trying to come up with a game plan.
Yeah, and it was a positive because they had gone through a little bit of a lull, Chris, when it really started in Houston, then Washington, Indianapolis, which was nip and tuck. So it was good to see the offense getting back to being a little bit more explosive, even without Dallas Goedert, no matter how they did it. But all you can do with a 10-1 team is nitpick, right? I mean, they're 10-1, so we give them all the credit, all the accolades. But how can you run for 363 and Green Bay still in the game late? Because they needed a Jake Elliott field goal, which is a pretty big kick for a guy who never kicks. The Eagles are so effective. He's kicked 11 field goals this year. The guy never gets to kick. The Green Bay was a little bit too close for comfort. Special teams, defense, short fields. Why was Green Bay in this game?
That's the one right there. You hit a nail on the head. And every week it seems like even if they have a good game offensively, defensively, it seems like some special teams does something where you're like, what's going on like in there? And I think that was the main thing right now. When you look at that, so many short fields that the Green Bay had to work with, and sometimes they got bailed out when the defense did its job there. Sometimes it didn't hold up as well too. I look at the way when you're giving your opponent around, this is not official, but they let your opponent around start at a 40 every time or midfield, and it's like, okay, defense,
40 would have been nice.
Yeah,
40 would have been nice.
At the end there, where especially get that 53-yard kickoff return, like that's why. Like I put a lot of that yesterday on the special teams themselves. Because I think they just put them in a bad position. They were behind the 8 ball to begin with, especially when starting those field positions. But I'd probably say that would be number one, and then two, we started to see the guard at the end there with the Gardner Johnson not being there. I think he probably has a better shot of stopping Christian Watson on that play. I mean, good luck trying to stop him with that speed, but I think he gives you a better chance because like the safeties, Epson, Blankenship took bad pursuit routes there. But listen, man, I put this squarely on special teams. I really do.
Yeah, they did not play well on specials for sure yesterday. And I give you another guy. And I know I'm going to get crushed by Eagle fans for putting this guy on at least even partial blast. But for the second consecutive week, A.J. Brown had a bad fumble. Last week, Johnny Mack gave him a pass because he said it was a perfect punch out. I questioned it because I thought he made a bad move. He either A, runs by people, or B, runs over people. He doesn't stop to try and put a move on, but that's exactly what he did against Indianapolis and coughed up the football. He got it punched out again last night. At least he was trying to physically go through a guy, which I like, but you got to be able to hold on to the football. No, he was sick during the week. Do we just give him a pass because he's A.J. Brown and he was as great as he was for the first 7 games of the season? Or is it fair to critique him because he's lost 2 pretty bad fumbles these last 2 weeks?
I think it's fair game to do so, especially when it comes to listen. We always hear this team's harp on or protecting the ball. I mean, we saw 2 weeks ago those posters go up there going about the ball control.
That was the first mistake of the year by this staff, Chris.
Ever since then, it seems like ever since then, it's just been like, what is going on here? The ball's been dropped on the ground all the time. But I think it's a fair thing. I mean, if sick or not, I think if you're able to be on the field, I think it's one of those things where if you're able to be on the field, you have to be able to abide by everything that you're asked to do. And one of the things that A.J. Brown and any other ball carriers asked to do is protect that football. And I think if you ask him, when you look at that, it's like, he's gonna. Yeah, he'll take full responsibility of that. And there's no way to really do it because I thought the whole entire nation saw that fumble go into the ground. But yeah, it's so concerning now. And I bet you right now, Mike Vrabel and those Tennessee Titans are showing the film of the last 2 weeks going. And besides having the intimate knowledge of him from his time there, they're showing film like, hey guys, this is how we can get our ball back. So it's concerning. I know we talked about books a couple of weeks ago about how to beat the Eagles for that, but I think there's a book out there now on how to try to get the ball from A.J. Brown, and teams are going to continue to do that.
Yeah, it is A.J. Brown week. A.J.'s not wanting to talk about Tennessee much. He's going to have to this week, so it's going to be interesting. Obviously, things didn't end well with him there, but we'll have plenty of time to talk about the Titans as the week goes on. When I look at this defense, I mean, people don't like Jonathan Gannon in this town. So, hey, they gave up 33 points to the Packers. You know, Christian Watson gets loose for 63 yards. You mentioned Reed Blankenship with the poor angle. When you look at the defense, Chris, in this particular game, Jody was concerned a little bit with the run support. A.J. Dillon, I think, they had a really difficult time with really physical player. That maybe doesn't bode that well with Derrick Henry coming in. Concerns at all with the defense?
I think when it comes still even with all the additions I think they're still ironing out the gap responsibilities because there were a couple of times where guys were either spinning themselves out of the play or shooting in the wrong gaps. The next thing you know, there's a cutback lane on the backside. Like, is it the front side defensive line guys? Like, they were actually doing a lot. It was those backside guys where they're like, oh, let me spin over here and try to shoot the gap this way. And they guessed wrong. And then there's all of a sudden you see Dillon running back for 6-7 yards, cutting back and throwing shoulders, getting to there. And that's the Achilles heel, I think, when you look at his defense. They're not the biggest defense. So when you have your defensive linemen making the wrong decisions up front, it's going to expose how the size of those linebackers and obviously defensive backs, because offensive linemen, are huge. So I guess going on those guys. So I think when you look overall at when you're doing that, I'm concerned in that aspect. I think secondary, I really don't have any. For me, the secondary, I feel it's okay. I think the run game pursues that. I'm worried about I don't get in my prediction. I still got to write and everything, but I'm very concerned coming up about this Titans team because all you're going to get for probably 70% of the time is going to be a run play, and then that just makes everything else, especially when trying to play action pass, more effective. And I'm shocked and I'm shocked that the Packers didn't do this more. If I see Linval Joseph on the field right there, I'm throwing the ball on first or second down because they're not. That's to me, that's the way forward. I'm going to have more success that way too. And you almost have to work backwards against this Eagles defense. You really do. And I'm shocked they didn't do that more. I thought they would have had more success because they had less people on the second level. So it's going to be a lot. I'm concerned about this. And hey, if there's a potential matchup in the playoffs where you're maybe playing the 49ers at the NFC Championship game, I'm concerned about that now too because of the way that this defense is shown when it comes to trying to stop the run.
Know that we're kind of jumping ahead here, and we don't want to move quickly past an impressive offensive win against the Packers, but Tennessee to get A.J. Brown. How about Jim Schwartz? What kind of role does Jim Schwartz have with Tennessee? He retired and then came out of retirement to go to work for Tennessee. He's Johnny Mac's boy. J Mac, you better get a couple of quotes from Schwartz leading into this weekend's matchup. What kind of a impact does he have in this week's game? Because he coached. There's still some Eagle players on this defense that Jim Schwartz actually coached when he was last year in Philly.
You know that Spider-Man meme where they have them pointing at each other? I really feel like it's where you have Jonathan Gannon and Jim Schwartz pointing at each other because it's the same type of philosophy as they don't want to get deep. They let Schwartz lets his defensive lineman, I think, go a little bit more than what Gannon wants to do. So I think there's that one. He probably knows about Fletch. He probably knows about Fletch. He knows about BG, what they like to do, what they're not comfortable with, and he could pass it off to the offensive guys. And in a brief conversation, they can set it up that way. But I think overall, when you look at it's a lot different staff. These guys are different players than what they were when he was here, even though it was a couple of years ago. And I think he'll just enjoy coming back to Philly. I mean, he's well revered by this organization from his time here and helping him get a Super Bowl. But if anything, I think it's going to be one of the things where it's like, all right, let's see what you do. I would be surprised if we see a lot more safe play when it comes against Jalen, try to stop Jalen Hurts, but it's going to be tough.
Yeah, I'm interested. Obviously, Jim is not the defensive coordinator. That is Shane Bowen. Mike Vrabel, obviously, is a defensive guy as well. It's a very good defense in Tennessee as a whole. I think it starts with Jeffrey Simmons, who was a tremendous player. This is a game I've had circled for a while because I think, the old axiom, styles make fights. I don't think this is a good style matchup for the Eagles. I think this is almost a game, Chris, where you got to go win it offensively because, in other words, the Eagles are so explosive offensively, at least when they're cooking like they were against Green Bay. Teams like Tennessee can't beat you if you play at that level because they're not going to beat you in a shootout. But they can shorten the game, sort of like what Washington did, and they can win it that way. So I kind of look at this upcoming game and I say to myself, it's not about the defense as much as it about the offense. The offense has to not allow Tennessee to play the type of game that they want to play. Does that make sense at all?
Yeah, because they're going to have to maximize every possession they have because with the way that they run the ball, this could be the offense. It is very plausible the offense only has about 7 possessions, 6, 7 possessions in that game because they can reel off long drive, methodical drives just by running it in the old school 3 yards to the cloud dust manner with Derrick Henry. It's just like basically there's a battering ram trying to hit against his defensive line, just wearing it down to the late third, fourth quarter, and they can really pick up his chunk yard. So it's one of those things where is it fair to the offense a little bit? Like when you have that? No, but it's one of those things where you're going to rely on basically they're going to play near perfect in sense when they get the ball because the way that the defense when it comes to the run defense right now is we know it's going to be tough unless they do a lot of run blitzing, which would be way out of Jonathan Gannon's MO. That's the only way I see you possibly stopping them, and that's going to be tough. So it's going to be maximizing every single opportunity they have. It's going to be one of those games where they probably have to defend is score 4 or 5 of their 7 possessions in order to win that. And that is
All right.
doable, but it's really tough.
All right. I said this with Les. I said it with John. Now I'm going to say it with you. Well, let's give Miles Sanders some credit here. We know that Jalen Hurts did what he did, and it was all-time, never seen before type stuff. For the Eagles, who have had great running quarterbacks before, but he sets the record for most yards ever by a quarterback. Oh, by the way, Miles Sanders runs for the most yards he does ever in his career, and nobody notices because we're all watching and talking about Jalen Hurts. I need a prediction out of you, Franklin. I'm going to throw some names your way. Miles Sanders, Saquon Barkley, Josh Jacobs, Tony Pollard, David Montgomery, Kareem Hunt, Jamal Williams, Jeff Wilson Jr., Devin Singletary. All these guys are free agents at the end of the year. Those are some of the best running backs in the National Football League. And the Eagles don't have a number one back under contract right now because Miles is their number one back and he's not under contract. Who's going to be the number one back? One of those guys or a to be determined in the draft running back for the Philadelphia Eagles at the start of next year?
Ooh, that's a good question. I still think it's Sanders. I really do. I think it's going to be the market's going to be. I'm not going to use that reference. So yeah, market's going to be flooded with a lot of running backs on the market.
You also have a lot of teams that need running backs. If all those guys are leaving their team, that means a whole bunch of teams are going to need running backs.
Yeah, but it's going to be
nobody wants to pay running backs though. They don't want to. That's why they're all on the market. Yeah.
Yep. And everybody goes like, oh, we can get the younger version for a lot less, and we can pick them up, get them on like a 3-year deal or like a 4th, 5th round pick salary. So I think I think a lot of that. I think there'll be something worked out, and that's the problem. If he was in a year where there wasn't so many running backs coming out, I think he's putting up things where it could be lucrative enough for that position. Problem is going to be so many people there that I think I wouldn't be surprised if he signed like a 2-year deal, 2 or 3-year deal, or maybe 2 with an option, something like that, where it goes, hey, you know what? Hey, I want to go and get another big contract if I can, if I continue to play well too. But I think it's going to be Sanders. I think I was part of it was like Sanders and a back that's drafted again, despite them having Gainwell and Scott. Sanders is going to be the lead back coming here, I think, in 2023.
Don't forget Trey Sermon.
Yeah. I'm shocked he has not gotten more run than he's gotten this year. That yesterday was a Trey Sermon type game, and it didn't activate him. I really thought it would be that type of game for him, but
yeah, hey. I always enjoy the Eagles inactives every week, Chris, because it's like a sermon from the book of Job every week. Trey Sermon, Ian Book, Josh Job, Josh Sills thrown in there. I got to figure Josh Sills. But anyway, I digress. I want to talk about the guys. Jordan Davis is eligible to come off IR this week. Avonte Maddox next week. And then Dallas Goedert, I think, is week 14. Which one are we going to see first? Is it just going to be as simple as Jordan Davis this week? Or is it going to be a little bit more complicated?
The way I saw Jordan Davis, like we were waiting to go to the press conference room and locker room, saw him jogging off the field, and he was going. He's doing his little light jog, and like that ankle was bothering him too much. When he's down. Maybe a wind helps that out, where you're like, oh, we feel great. Okay, he just runs that way. But I wonder how much of it is going to be like getting him back into playing shape as well too. I wouldn't be surprised if it's we see the following see Davis and Maddox come back at the same time. And I thought I saw Maddox coming out the locker room briefly. They just it back up and then got out before we were allowed back in too. But I think it's one of those things where we'll start to see him. I see them coming back at the same time, and I'm actually kind of looking forward to seeing the combination of who's the odd man out in that defensive tackle rotation. That we'll learn a lot about that too, because you got some decisions to make, and will we see one of those guys' names next to the Book of Job, the Book of Sills, and everything else too? But it's going to be tough on that one too. But I think it's going to be Davis and Max coming back at the same week.
All right, Eagles did get 3 sacks last night. One of them came at a very opportune time. The other 2 were kind of, by the way. We're talking about the defensive line and the fact that Joseph and Sue were great last week. They were part of it last night. Neither one of them a really big play. Eagles pass rush good enough right now. They did get 3 sacks, so I don't want to make it sound like they did nothing, but I thought Rodgers had time to sit back there and make plays. Jordan Love did as well. He looked pretty good coming off their bench. Are they getting enough pass rush right now for your liking, Chris Franklin?
I think I want to see more from that second unit. I think that first unit, I think Josh Sweat's he's quietly playing some really, really good football right now. And I look at that when I think when he's on the field and you have whatever 2 defensive tackles you want to use, and then you have some, I have no problem with that first line there. It's when you get to that second line and you start looking at the pass rush, that does help. It helps when you don't give up 6-7 yards on the first down or second down, and then you play like 3rd and 3, something like that for it. And then you limit your options. You're not getting the pass rush there because I think you're playing a guessing game if it's going to be a run or a pass. But I just want to see more out of that second defensive line unit getting the rush that way. That way has me worried because you can't play these guys 60, 70 snaps a game in order to try to generate that because you're not going to get the pass rush that way because they're retired. So if they can find a way to get that second rush, some more pass rush from that second unit defensive line rush, I think it feels a little bit more comfortable there.
If we just talked about some injuries, Chris, but we didn't talk about Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. So we have to see how serious that particular injury is. I thought Reed Blankenship did a really nice job under difficult circumstances, but I don't know if he's ready to play consistent snaps in a week in, week out basis. I think, people will start to notice that he's on the field, and you already saw it a little bit with the Christian Watson play. Took a really bad angle. Josiah Scott was out. I think it was ironic that Scott and Blankenship got the goat balls, and those are the issues, really. Darius Slay wanted his goat ball. It happened to go to Scott and Blankenship, who, by the way, first interceptions for both of their NFL careers at Aaron Rodgers. Unbelievable. But I don't think that's good long term. Chauncey's got to be out there, right? That depth is a concern at safety.
I feel we talked about this last time when it came to a certain other safety, but I feel more comfortable at the free safety spot than your strong safety when it comes to there. Listen, the fact that I wonder how long it's going to be, because I thought the way he was walking off the field and I thought he was like, he was out and he may be done for the season. In fact, he said he's questionable return. I was like, wait, what? In the ribs? Okay.
He was in a lot of pain.
Yeah.
I thought it was a stinger at first.
He tore his like groin muscle or something like that. The way he was walking off was like, oh no, that's in the way he bent. Was like, oh, that's bad. But when you look at the ribs and everything, they need him back. I mean, you're losing the guy who leads the league in interceptions right now, and a guy who's shifted over to that safety role pretty well in a ball hawk and makes teams think about when he's throwing in that area. It makes sure you better be on target because if not, he's going to be around there to be a threat to take it. And just like anything else, when you have a young guy, there's not really a book yet on Reed Blankenship. And I think there's a little bit of book building on Josiah Scott. And I thought you saw that on one of the touchdowns where they look like Randall Cobb. They attacked him with Randall Cobb on the inside. There's a nice play design. But I think overall, if you begin to start rate Blankenship, I feel a little bit more comfortable with the free safety spot and having Epps shift over just in case, because basically a lot of times you're playing that center field and you're helping in run support. And the thing that surprised me was you never want to see a defensive back up there with tackles, but he was up there. He tied with the team leading tackles last night too. So I was like, all right, he's getting his nose dirty in that too. So if it's a short stint, 2-3 weeks, I can live with it. If it's season ending, then I'm like, that's alarms are going off.
All right, Chris, I mentioned this last week here on the show and earlier in this show. Did we potentially see the last Aaron Rodgers at the link, green versus green appearance? And that means Packers against the Eagles.
You might go.
I'm like Johnny Mac here.
Yeah.
I'm not suggesting his career is over and done with, but that he could be somewhere else other than Green Bay. So Brett Favre leave. Why the hell can't we see Aaron Rodgers leave? Could this have been the last Aaron Rodgers versus Eagles matchup at the link?
I think when it comes, I gotta look at the way the schedule rolls out. I forget who they were lined. I know it wouldn't line up. Actually, at this rate, they wouldn't line up. I think it'd be the Vikings this year. So I'm not sure in home or 2024 and beyond. I think it's a good possibility with the way he's talking. And I think he takes his victory tour next year. I wouldn't be surprised if he did that because that way he can get all the gifts, the everything else. Hey, we'll give you a bronze Liberty Bell like they give the Pope that one time, give something like that on his way out, or something like that, or whatever. If they go there, what have you.
I think he takes his victory tour in another uniform, the way Brady has. I think he's getting out of Green Bay this year. I think he's going to continue to play, but I don't know that it's going to be as a Packer.
He wants to get the hell away from Matt LaFleur.
I wonder if that's the thing where LaFleur is the one that gets out because even though it's Rodgers, everything else, even LaFleur is a good young mind and everything. One of the things was, well, we know he's done it for us in the past. Maybe LaFleur is the one that gets kicked out. And they try to appease him. Who knows? Maybe Nathaniel Hackett will be available again, and then he becomes the head coach.
Oh, wow.
Nathaniel Hackett's going to have a tough time getting a job pushing a broom in an NFL.
Let Russ cook. Will you let Russ cook? Now his kitchen's burning and everything else, and he's in trouble.
Yikes.
At C. Franklin News, NJ.com, Chris. End it there. Nick Sirianni. I mean, you see all these coaches, Nathaniel Hackett. We were talking about Matt Eberflus. I don't know what the hell's going on in Chicago. And they coach together, obviously, in Indy. Man, 10-1, and you think about the 2-5 start as a rookie. So from that point forward, this guy just keeps winning games. This guy just keeps winning games. The Eagles, I don't want to say it was plan A or plan B or plan C. I don't know what it was. But Jeffrey Lurie's had this history of maybe not getting the guy he originally wanted when it comes to his coaching changes, but getting the best guy. He's done it again with Nick Sirianni. This is pretty impressive.
Yeah, I'm kind of getting Andy Reid vibes when it comes to Nick Sirianni. I mean, obviously he doesn't have the menu board and doesn't have the Hawaiian shirts and everything. But when you look at the way that he's basically having success this early and the success coming out of nowhere, and especially offensively, when you look at the way they're doing it, I just get those vibes a lot from him. And the one thing I think is going to be important, I think he can continue to have success, but he has to avoid something which happened with Reed, was that he has to make sure he continues to develop the staff behind him, because this coaching staff is going to be rated next year.
Yes.
Especially this coaching staff is going to be completely rated, I think, that one. So, and we all know what happened. I mean, that was a Hall of Fame coaching staff. And look at what Andy Reid had when he first was hired. Now, as the years went along, you can count Doug Peterson toward the end because, hey, he was mine too. Look at this, he got Super Bowl. But I think that's the trap that Nick Sirianni has to avoid that Reid did. As long as
he's already doing it though. Marcus Brady's already doing it.
I think that's more of it's looking after his boy, because I would love to get Frank Reich in a room right now and just go, hey, just spill. Was that your idea to get rid of Marcus Brady, or was that from Jim Irsay?
No,
that's what I would say. Like more stuff like that, to get that, because I want to see how much of Irsay had an influence in that offense.
Oh, that was all Irsay.
Oh, yeah.
No way Frank Reich is better. No.
We all agree on that. Hey, you Pennsylvania Eagle fans, be thankful, because this was 1992. You'd have to get in your car and drove over the Ben Franklin Bridge if you wanted to read Chris Franklin. Now all you got to do is punch him up on your computer. You used to have to be able to drive across. You couldn't get that newspaper. And God bless the 1.3% out there that's still buying newspapers. No, we get them online. We read them online on a day in, day out basis. He does a great job for NJ.com. Chris Franklin, thank you much. We will talk to you again next week.
Hey, thank you guys so much. And buy the newspapers. They're still available.
Yes.
Thank you guys so much.
Nobody's buying newspapers there. And I use an ink-stained wretch. Who is that? Is that my boy
Marcus
Hayes?
Marcus Hayes, yeah.
I love that Twitter handle. I read newspapers for my entire life. Quickie, I know we got to wrap this bad boy up. When I started buying newspapers, the New York Daily News cost 8 cents. That's how long I've been buying news. 8 cents. You got
Chris
2 pennies back from
you.
your
Chris
dime.
is still there. He's laughing.
But the day I used to walk up, 8 years old, my father used to
man.
send me down the block, go get the newspaper, give me a dime, and he'd want his 2 cents change back. So I bought newspapers for a long time. Yeah, nobody buys newspapers anymore. We read online. And we appreciate you streaming us online. We're going to come back here on Birds 365 and put a bow on the show.
At Pond Lehocky, we've recovered billions of dollars for our clients, and we're confident we can do the same for you. With over 250 years of combined courtroom experience, we've helped over 100,000 injured clients obtain some of the largest settlements in Pennsylvania. One conversation is all it takes to help you and your family get back on track. If you've been injured in an accident, give Pond Lehocky a call.
Jim Gardner is an icon.
A Philadelphia treasure.
He's a mentor, a pace setter.
Jim is my North Star.
He's trusted, revered.
Appreciated.
He is Action News.
He's compassionate. Honest.
And fair. He is extremely dedicated, motivated, and always seeking the truth.
He's also funny. We are a team of many.
Jim Gardner is our leader, and we're lucky to have him.
Go passionately. Go fearlessly. Go confidently.
Go Birds!
Go confidently towards your goals with First Trust, Philly's hometown bank for nearly 90 years, and the official bank of the Philadelphia Eagles. We're focused on getting you over the goal line. So go with conviction. Go with trust.
Go Birds!
And go forward with us by your side. First Trust Bank, the official bank of Philadelphia dreams. Oh, and go Birds.
We all know that taxes are just part of life. It's true during our working years, but also in retirement. But what you might not know is up to 85% of your Social Security benefits might be taxed. Our team at Thrive Financial has helped retire thousands of people across the Delaware Valley by asking questions they never knew they needed to ask, including how their Social Security benefits might be taxed. It's time to be proactive on taxes. Get your Thrive Retirement Tax Playbook today.
Mega Mac putting a wrap on a Birds 365 victorious Monday edition after they beat the Packers 40-33. And I said this earlier, another check mark. Love getting the check marks. They want a shootout. Hadn't seen them really win a down and dirty shootout, back and forth, both teams scoring. They did just that. I don't think it'll be that kind of game against Tennessee on Sunday. We'll give the Eagles more props again tomorrow for their win, and then we'll start the look ahead to the Thursday game. What nuggets you going to get from the head coach today, Johnny Mac? Are you live? Or are you Zooming today?
Zooming. Monday after is always virtual this year. So Zooming away with Nick Sirianni. Hopefully we get an update on Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. That's probably the biggest news of the day. And other than that, you know, it's about sustaining. I always say with this team, everybody's worried about getting better. They don't have to get better. They just have to sustain.
10-1. Only 4 previous times the Eagles have had that record in the regular season, and they all ended up in championship appearances. That is what the bar is right now for the Eagles. We'll see if they can keep it. Partner, know you were going on short rest and not feeling well. Appreciate you gutting it out with me today. I say we do this again tomorrow. And I know it's physical capabilities permitting. But are you in?
I'm in. I'm going to have at least 4 hours of sleep. I'm going to be ready to go tomorrow.
Johnny Mac will be back with me and you tomorrow right here on Birds 365 in 2 and 2.
You've been listening to Birds 365, the destination for the passionate Eagles football fan who bleeds green. If it's Eagles football, we're talking about it. Debate inside the locker room and guests that are some of the greatest football minds from around the region. We hope you enjoyed the show. We know we had a blast. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hook up with us on social media at JAKIB Sports. See you next time on Birds 365.